On this episode, we'll build up a versatile, do-it-all bike, a 1952 Schwinn, the forerunner of all modern mountain bikes, also known as a Klunker. The great thing about a Klunker is it can be any type of bike and it can take you anywhere. It can be a city bike, it can be an all-terrain bike, and it can even be a BMX bike. As a matter of fact, a Klunker can make an excellent BMX bike, especially if you build it up the way I build up this one. I created Klunker Boss here to race at Dirty Fest, a vintage-style BMX race held in April of 2023 in Temecula, California. And I rode this bike to a first place finish in the pre-1980 cruiser class. The race was on a 1970 style vintage downhill BMX track. This 1952 Schwinn was a thrill to ride, and weight didn't matter much because I found out that overweight technology works pretty good when you're going downhill. I'll probably race this bike again, ride it around town and on local trails, but for now, let's dig into this build. I got this 1952 Schwinn balloon tire frame from Mark Darcy, who builds incredible show quality BMX bikes out in Southern California. Cruisers, 20-inch bikes, kind of specializes in like old Bassett frames. He and I were on the Powerlite BMX team together back in 1980, and I first met him then. We've stayed in touch. He had this on eBay and on Facebook for sale a couple of years ago. It's a 1952 frame with the old Arnold Schwinn & Company The World badge on it, which I'll show you a close-up of that. Anyway, it's powder-coated black. It was ready to build up. I don't know why he didn't want to build this. I think he kind of sticks with more of the modern, 70s and 80s BMX bikes. He has the Tange fork, which has never been put together, never been used, so it's basically new on the shelf. The original concept for this, as it sat, and I looked at it for the last 2 years, was to build it up as kind of like a clunker, like a mountain bike clunker, but with BMX parts. The plan was to use like a 2-speed kickback, coaster brake, rear wheel, or maybe even put a derailleur on it. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with the wheels. But then I had the opportunity to build this up as a BMX, kind of a BMX race bike from the late 70s. And then I was thinking with my BMX roots, that would be more fun to ride as a single speed, which, there's a challenge there. It doesn't have a bracket for a caliper brake or any like V brakes. So I had to kind of tackle that. I had most of the parts for the bike. I really only had to pick up a few things. So I'm kind of, show this to you, run through the parts real quick, and then we'll put this thing together. I have a Pro-Neck stem, which is one that I raced with back in the late 70s, early 80s. One of my favorite pieces is the Boss Cruiser handlebars from the 90s. I just love the look of these things. And, it still has the Boss decals. I'm thinking about actually naming this bike the Klunker Boss. I have a whole box of old brake levers, but this Dia Compe lever, I don't know what the year is on that. I think it's like late 80s, kind of spring actuated. I think that'll make a good like 2-finger lever to go along with the bars. Some modern day AME grips, AME Tri Grips, the reproductions of the ones from the 70s and 80s. Keeping with my yellow and black color scheme, I've got a frame pad and a stem pad. I've got a Schwinn seat post, it's an odd size. It's 13/16. I've got that. Can't go without a Brooks saddle, because that's just kind of a classic English saddle look that I put on most of my bikes. I don't want to forget about the GT double bolt seat post clamp. That's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to build this up possibly with one-piece cranks, but more than likely with some more modern profile cranks. But I've got this sweet Sugino chromoly crank with a Tagaki spider and a 44 tooth gold Tagaki chainring. So I'm either going to go with these 180s profile cranks in black, or maybe the 182s in chrome. For the profile cranks, I've got this American to European bottom bracket hop-up kit that will allow you to press in these cups that have the bearings built into them, and you can run your profile cranks. I changed my mind on the bottom bracket kit. The profile kit, which is great, and it's not Profile's fault, doesn't really fit tightly in the Schwinn frame. And that's probably because, this frame is like over 70 years old, and the bottom bracket has been stretched by riding and probably by changing out the bearing cups time and again. So the profile is a little loose, but I found a Black Ops kit, conversion kit. With the Black Ops kit, there are 4 bolts that come together, and actually as you tighten it, it presses the cups into place. And actually, if you just slide it in there, it's quite a bit snugger than the profile bottom bracket, or even just regular bearing cups were a little bit loose in there. So we're going to go with that one. In my opinion, bigger pedals are always better. So I borrowed these Deity T-MAC pedals from my hardtail mountain bike. I love these things. They have one of the biggest platforms that you can get. I picked up these custom-made CNC'd canty mounts from a guy down in Texas named Mike Bancroft, and he makes these things. They're awesome. You can basically put these on your old Schwinn frame, then you can mount V-brakes. So these are from Mike Bancroft, and I picked up a set of these Box 1 V-brakes. So I'm hoping I can get this all dialed in and get the brakes working good. For wheels, I went with the SE Racing reproduction, kind of like 80s looking rims with high flange hubs and sealed bearings. Got a set of those. White Industries makes some of the best components for mountain biking and BMX bikes. I even run their cranks on my road bikes. So I picked up this 18 tooth White Industries freewheel. I wanted to put some beefy tires on here, that were not too heavy, and I didn't want to go with an old tread pattern. I wanted to go with something a little more modern. So I had bought these a few years back for one of my vintage mountain bikes. They're Michelin Country Racer tires. I think they're going to go really well on this bike. After all the careful measuring, I originally had these mounts about here, maybe a little higher. I think I need to split the difference because I've got less than a 1/4 inch of clearance here now between the tire and the brake cable, which is okay if you're not riding in dirt or mud, but what happens if we have a muddy track? So the old school way of towing in the brakes was a little archaic, but that's how we did it. All right, tighten up the brake pads so they don't fall off and cause me to go over the handlebars and break my collarbone again. Thanks for watching me build up Klunker Boss. This bike has become a favorite in my collection. Please like this video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hey Radmatic fans, check out radmatic.com for cool BMX and cycling t-shirts and apparel. We have plenty to choose from with more in development. Celebrate the vintage days of BMX racing. Proudly display your enthusiasm for all things BMX and cycling. Each shirt comes in multiple colors and sizes. Buying shirts at radmatic.com is one way you can help support this channel. Until next time, stay rad and keep doing it in the dirt.